Welcome back, Bills of Red, to another Minecraft Bedrock Edition tutorial. Now today I have before me an Allay Sorter. Now, Allays are a bit more challenging than they may first appear. It is a whole lot harder to use them than you may think, and so that's what today's tutorial is about. It's how to build a very easy and simple Allay Sorter that you can actually change how fast it works. Now, all this is being done thanks to the new mob that was added into the game, the Allay. Now, the Allay is a very simple mob. All you have to do is simply, once you have it contained in your chamber, you simply give it the item you want it to sort, for example, an iron sword, and then whenever iron swords flow in, get chest aligned, it will pick it up, and then when it detects a note block, then it will drop the item into the chest below. And then, of course, if it's any other item, for example, like a crossbow or a bow or any other stackable or non-stackable item, all items are just going to go past it and through the system. So yeah, in case it wasn't already obvious, Allays help us sort non-stackable items. They can actually sort any non-stackable or stackable item in the game. Now, putting a stackable item, like for example gold blocks using Allays, it's not actually the greatest idea. I mean, it will work. For example, if I had been throw in a bunch of gold blocks, all those blocks will be sorted and thrown into the chest down here. You can see all the blocks are flowing in, but there is a lot cheaper and easier ways to do this using just normal item filters, and that is what I recommend doing for stackable items. But for non-stackable items, for example swords, crossbows, and bows, this system works amazing. Now, it is worth noting that Allays do have simple limitations. Now, armor and tools are just like you would expect. They only sort out that exact tool. For example, diamond chest plates will only sort out diamond chest plates. It won't sort out all the different types of diamond armor for you. You would need more than one of that different type of Allay. Now, if you're talking about potions or enchanted books being the other two non-stackable items that there is a mass variety of, it's a bit more complicated. For example, if I give them a night vision 8-minute potion and throw, of course, my 8-minute potion, it will pick it up and, of course, throw it in the chest. But a 3-minute of the night vision, it will not pick up. If I was to throw any other potion, of course, it wouldn't pick up. And if I throw a splash potion, it would, of course, not pick that up either. So when you give it a potion type, it gets that exact type. It won't give any other duration or any other variation, whether that's lingering or splash of that potion. Now, if you're sorting, for example, enchanted books, the system is a bit more forgiving. Now, if I give this Allay a protection 1 book, of course, if I throw a protection 1 book in, it will pick it up and, of course, throw it into the chest. And if I throw a protection 2 book, it will also pick up this book. So the Allays do sort between the different types of potions, but it doesn't actually sort between the different types of enchanted books. If you have one Allay for an enchanted book, regardless what that book is, it will pick up all the other enchanted books, and all of them will end up in the chest down below. Now, this right here is an easy demonstration on how a basic Allay sorter would work. Now, you can see in the background, I have a couple more compact or titleable designs that lets you get a whole bunch more Allays and a bunch of different items sorting in a much more compact area. Now, the basic mechanics of Allays that you need to know is Allays, in order for them to sort any item, they need to have an air block gap above them as well. So that means that they need a total of 2 blocks of air. They need one right here above their head, and they need the one they are, of course, in. The other thing is Allays actually have only 2 inventory slots. They have the slot that, of course, the item that they are sorting, and then they have an empty slot to pick up any new items. So, for example, if I was to, of course, be sorting all my iron swords out, if I give this Allay an iron sword, and then throw an iron sword, and then throw another one right after, it can't pick up the second one because it still has one in its inventory. Now, in order to make the Allay give up its item, you have to play a note block in a certain distance from it. Now, whenever the note block is played, it will drop its item, and then that will flow into the chest where we are sorting. And now that the Allay's inventory is empty again, if I was to re-grab that sword and throw it again, the Allay picks it up and throws it right away. And that is basically if the note block is played anytime within the past 30 seconds, the Allay will go ahead and throw the item knowing that it's close to the note block. Basically, the note block needs to be replayed about every 30 seconds in order to remind it that it is hooked up to this note block. Now, you've probably noticed this piston right up here on top. Now, this piston is basically just to make sure that the Allays are always sorting properly. Right here, I have a wall, and the wall, of course, lets you be able to access the Allay and change your item at any time with ease, which is why we have a wall here instead of a solid block. But the reason we also have a block there with a sticky piston is basically every so often, for example, if I was to break this glass real quick, the allay is going to fly up thinking that there's an empty gap there, and then when it is done, it might stay up in this corner. Or if you decide to use multiple allays, which the system can handle, then the allays will end up getting stuck up there. So what this piston does is it pushes the allay back down in this gap right here, and then it retracts. That way it still has a 2-block air gap, but it makes sure that the allays are always in the correct position. That way they can always make sure to pick up the item that they are sorting for. Now this right here is just a basic slice. This is how you would build one. Now when you are using allays, you are probably sorting more than one non-stackable item, which is why I have these two systems back here. Now these two systems are actually the exact same, except one works at double speed. Now how it works at double speed is simply one has one allay in each slice, and the other one has 2 allays in each slice. The only thing that changes is how long this comparator clock goes on for. So if I was to simply go to one of these systems and input a chest full of a bunch of non-stackable items I'm sorting, then of course the items are all going to be dispensed into the water, be chest aligned, and then run across this water stream. And then if the allay is sorting that item, it will be picked up and then thrown into the chest down below. Now, because allays can sort any item in the game, Minecraft decided to add a little cooldown in it to make sure that they aren't, totally overpowered. So there is a 3-second cooldown between when allays can pick up a new item. Now, if one item every 3 seconds is too slow for you, which likely it is, the easiest way to increase that speed is to just add another allay. So over on this slice, you can see the timer is half the speed, so one item every 1.5 seconds. And what we have is we have 2 allays in every single one of those slices. That way, even if one is cooling down, the other one can pick up the other item. And you can see here, it is sorting all the items, and it is sorting quite a bit faster than the other one. Of course, it is double speed. Now, one thing you guys are probably wondering is why we are using water streams. Now, if you're doing this for like an actual farm or sorter that already uses water streams, it makes sense. But if you're using, for example, a hopper-based sorting system, then of course you're going to have to then retransfer it over to a water stream at the end. And the reason we are using a water stream is just because with hoppers, I could not get the reliability figured out. I've tested dozens of different systems, and regardless what I did, allays just didn't like working with hoppers. So by having a water stream, they just had more variety, and they were just 100% reliable on water stream where they weren't with hoppers. So that is why we are using a water stream here. Now, you will notice I have used packed ice as well as blue ice. I've tested both of these different ice variants with the system, and both work just fine, so it's up to your personal preference which one you want to use. Now, you can see along the back side, hooked up to this timer, we have a decay clock. Now, this decay clock feeds into this etho hopper clock, and basically this says every time these 12 items transfers between these two hoppers, it's going to pulse the pistons once, and it's also going to pulse the note blocks once. Now, we have wool blocks here as wool inclusion, and that simply makes sure that these two allays focus on this note block, and these two allays focus on this note block, and that these two allays aren't accidentally focusing on this note block. The reason this wool inclusion is important is because if the allay is too far away from the note block that they have resonated to, so for example, if I have the note block all the way over here, and these allays think that they are attached to this one, they will never drop their item having an empty slot because they are always trying to fly closer to this note block. So what you do need to make sure to do is have a wool block between each slice, and if, for example, you have a whole bunch more allays somewhere else in your world or base, you are going to need to put up, like, for example, a wool wall or something in order to make sure that the allays don't intertwine. See, if I didn't have this wool wall right here, if I was to hit this note block, you can see those allays sense that, and just by having a little wool wall, the allays no longer sense that. Now, the Allay Sorters all do require a 2-block space minimum, so that doesn't mean that you will have an Allay Sorter or item output every other block. But if you want to tile more than 1, 2, or 3 non-stackable item sorters, then you are going to need a 2-block gap every 3, of course, sorters. The reason is we simply need to re-give the items a strength. We need to increase their speed because they are basically going to stop here if we don't have a water stream. So basically, every 3 Allay Sorters, you are going to need a little tube place area of water, and that will give enough momentum for the item to make it all the way to their actual destination. But that is really all there is to it. If you have any other questions or comments, let me know down in the comment section below. And if you want, join the Discord. It's a fun place where we hang out, ask our different redstone questions, and just talk with the community. Now, if you want the materials for world download, both of those are in the description below, along with the like and subscribe button, which if you haven't already, you might as well press those. But without further ado, let the tutorial begin. Now, for this build, you are going to need a 7 tall, 5 wide area, and then each Allay sorter you're going to have is going to be 2 blocks wide, and then every 3 you have, you're going to need to have a 2 block gap in the middle. So the calculations are going to be a bit complicated, so I would just clear out an area bigger than what you need. Now, right here in Emerald, in the surrounded area is where all the redstone is going to be. You are probably going to need less space than this, but depending on whether you have 1 or more Allays in your system, that will shrink how long this is, and your redstone really doesn't have to be in this exact place. The redstone is very flexible if you need to move it in order to make it more compact, or just like move all the redstone here to the left hand side. You can do that and just add in some more redstone lines, and that will work just fine. So for the actual build, we're going to start with the water streams. Now the water stream is going to be on the far right hand block, a total of 3 blocks up. Now I'm simply going to choose that I want my Allay sorter going this direction, so that is where my water stream is going to be, and I'm going to make this water stream out of packed or blue ice. It doesn't matter. Now I'm going to come back another 3 blocks, so 1, 2, 3, and now we have a vertical water stream here that's 4 blocks long. On this 5th one right here, we're going to place a pressure plate. This pressure plate doesn't need to be wooden or needs to be the gold or iron one. It can be any variation of any of those. It just needs to make sure it's a pressure plate that an item can activate. Now from here, this is where our actual water stream is going to flow in, and the water is going to push the items right up against a double chest right here. This is going to chest align the items, that way they are floating between this ice path and this other block, and that makes sure that whether the Allays in the front or in the very back of their little holding chamber, they're able to pick up the item and will not miss the item. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put in our slabs. So our slabs is basically going to make a little bit of a T around the actual Allay. So in the center upper part is where the Allay is going to be, and right here I have 3 right there. So there's my first Allay. If you want to only have 1, that's where you would stop. But if you want another one, simply create another T and then break the center one. That's where the second one would go. And if we do a third, we would have the third one right here. And then if you want to have more than 3, of course, you're going to need to continue your water stream as far out as you need to go. But then you need to simply leave a 2 block gap right here in the middle. And then you're just going to create a fresh T right here. Break the middle one. And you're just going to continue this pattern on. And just remember, every 3 slabs that you have out, you need a 2 block gap in the middle. So for this tutorial, I'm just going to go ahead and build one that is a total of 6 Allay sorters. This is, of course, a very repeated system, so it is very easy to repeat them over and over again. But just so you guys can easily see how this center part plays into having more than 1 slice. So now that we have the water stream in place, we're going to go ahead and finish working with our actual Allays. So for each of the Allays, we are going to come down, and on the lower block of the ice stream, we're going to have a slab. Underneath each of those slabs, you're going to have a hopper going straight down, and that's going to, of course, go into your chest. Or if you want to take this to, for example, an item silo or shulker box loader, that is where you would take it from. Now, off the back of this chest, you're going to need to have a solid or a glass block. Doesn't matter. And then you're going to have a comparator, and that's going to go straight into a note block. This is basically an overflow system. If, for example, all these chest slots are full of the items, and of course the Allay is still sorting, there's still more of those items in the system. If any items come in, it's going to, of course, turn this comparator on, and it's going to activate the note block once. After doing that, the Allays have 30 more seconds, and then they're basically going to stop picking up more items because their note block has not been played. And by doing this, we make sure that the system doesn't overflow and items aren't just sitting right on top. They're just going to end up at the end collection. So once you have the overflow circuit in place, it is time to actually make the containment area for the Allay. Now, I use glass here. That way it's easy to see if something's going wrong, and that way you can see who's actually attached to each of these note blocks. So I would recommend using glass here. It will save yourself so much time in the future if something goes wrong. So we are just going to continue the ice box right up, and right here is a 2.5 block gap, and then right here on the top is where we'll have a wall. On top of this wall, you can go ahead and place a sticky piston. So you'll have to come up 2 blocks, break the lower block, and then we'll just put a sticky piston right there, and then you can break the top one because that was temporary. So now that we have done the first one, it is now time to finish doing each of the other Allay sorters. Now once we have the Allays in place, we do want to make sure they're focusing on their note block and their note block only. So we do need to use some wool blocks in order to make wool inclusion to make sure that the Allays are only focusing on their individual note block. If you have any other note blocks in the area, then you are probably going to need to take some wool and just make a wall around this actual system in order to make sure that the Allays aren't focusing on those note blocks. So now we're going to come right around to the front side of the build, and we're going to come right back to this pressure plate we placed earlier. And right underneath this pressure plate, we're going to have 2 blocks right here, redstone dust on each of those. That'll go into a solid block, and then right here we will have a repeater on 1 tick. That repeater is going to go right into 2 solid blocks right here. You have any blocks right here, and then we're going to simply have 2 comparators facing in and 2 comparators facing out like that. Then you'll have 2 bit of redstone dust right there. You'll have a block right here with redstone dust, and then you're going to come up 1 block, and then you'll have a redstone torch right on top of that. We'll come up 1 more block right here, redstone dust on top of that, and then we'll have a piston facing inward, redstone block there, come back out 2 blocks, and then you need another piston facing in. Then we're going to need to place 2 hoppers right here on top of the redstone block facing directly into each other, and you need to have 12 random items that you don't care about in there. Then you're going to place 2 comparators, 1 here and 1 here, and redstone dust on this block. Now just like that, you have finished building an etho hopper clock. Now what we're going to do is take an observer signal straight down from the bottom of that redstone block. That's going to go into a solid block, and then we'll have 2 solid blocks on either side, redstone dust on both of those. And then this redstone line is simply going to continue and connect to all your different Allay sorters. This will pulse the note blocks every so often, and if you have enough Allay sorters in a line, you might need to use a repeater here in order to just extend the signal to every single one of your note blocks. Once you have done that, we are going to come around to the other side and hook the etho hopper clock up with these sticky pistons. So we are simply going to take an observer output from that hopper. That's going to go into a solid block. And then right here, you're simply going to have a solid block line going to every single one of your pistons. And if you want, you can just skip the final one and skip the first one and just have solid blocks on either end, because the redstone dust is going to be directly facing into that block, so that will be powering that piston, and that will save you 2 bits of redstone dust just like that. And the same goes here. If you have the redstone line long enough, you might need to have a repeater in order to just extend the signal all the way to the end. Now, once you have done all this, it is time to finish setting up the water stream. Now, if this is coming from a nether sorter that is working at a slow enough pace, then you can just hook that right up to this water stream right here. Now, if it is coming from a sorter that works too fast, or it comes from just like a hopper-based sorter, then you're going to need to put in a system right here. Now, this system is going to be a dropper auto-dispensing system. So we'll have a dropper and a target block right there. We'll come out, and here we'll have a comparator on subtract mode. Now, here's where you gotta decide how many Allays you want in each of those slices. If you have only 1 Allay in each of those slices, so that's going to mean 1 Allay per actual item you are sorting, then that means you're going to need a total of 8 repeaters, 4 on each side, and each of these repeaters need to be on 4 ticks. But if you have 2 Allays in each slice, then you can cut this number in half and have a total of 4 repeaters, each on 4 ticks, so that I can handle a total of 2 Allays. So it's going to be, there needs to be 2 Allays in every single slice in order for the system to work reliably 100% of the time. Now, once you have a system set up like this, you're simply going to have 2 bits of redstone dust right here on either end, connecting it all. Then we are going to simply connect this redstone line up to this block. So we're just going to extend this all the way down like that, and just have a redstone circuit or redstone line connecting those two. Now, anytime that this system activates, it will turn on this decay clock and actually turn on the timer, regardless whether this pressure plate is pressed or not. But if it is pressed, it will also do the exact same thing that this redstone line is doing. Now, all that's really left to do is simply to put a barrier around each of the walls to make sure, of course, the water stream stays in this contained area. Now, the water stream, you're going to go ahead and waterlog that pressure plate. The water is going to flow around, And then when you get to the center area, that is also where you're going to need a little bit of a wall, because you need to, of course, have a new water stream. This is not important if you have 1, 2, or 3 slices, but any more, you do need to have a little 2-block gap in order to give the item an extra little boost so it can finish making it through the entire sorter. Now right here at the end, wherever you decide to actually end your sorter, the easiest way to do this is simply just pick a chest, place the chest there, and put a hopper, and this is going to be your output where all the items that aren't being sorted are going to end up. This, of course, you can hook up to another sorting system depending how many items are left, or you can just make it your junk chest that you never check and just burn all those items in lava if you would prefer. Now there's 2 things left to do for this sorter. The first thing would be, of course, put a lid on top of the water stream. The reason we are doing this is to make sure that the items always stay in the water stream and don't accidentally, of course, fly out to some random place. The other thing, of course, we need to do is to put the allays in the actual sorter. Now, it is worth mentioning that in order for Allay Sorter to actually work, you do need your mob griefing tab to be on. So if you were to scroll down, you should see mob griefing turned on. This does mean that, like, for example, Endermen can pick up blocks, but that isn't necessary for this system to work. Because basically how Minecraft sees it, if Allay is picking up your item, it is stealing the item from you, even though it's giving it back to you. So it's a little bit weird. But if that tab is off or your Allay Sorter is not working, check that first. That could be the reason your Allay Sorter is not working. Anyhow, in order to get the allays in this sorter, I found the easiest way is to do it with minecarts. So if you were to simply set up a little platform right here, just give the allay an item that you are actually going to be sorting. So for example, I'm actually going to be sorting swords. Then if I simply make a little hole here, the only way to access is like down this chute and throw a sword in, then my allay is going to come back and get that sword. And on its way, it's going to flow straight into that minecart. And then, of course, you can simply break the box, get the item, and then get ready to put the next allay in. Alright, now to get the allay actually in the sorter, the easiest way is to just do it with a minecart rail. Now, the rail itself, you do want to make sure that it is coming in level. So I'm going to come down 1 block. We want it to come level into the actual system, because that means it could just bounce off this back block and will fall straight down in, and that will make actually putting the allay in the system quite a bit easier. So simply I'm going to bring the allay right on into this minecart rail I just created right there. It will slide in, and just with an extra little nudge, it should fall straight in the hole. Now, because the system is made for 2 allays because of my timings, and now I have 2 allays in, I can then put the wall back and break this stuff right here. Now, you are going to have to repeat this for every single one of your slices, but once you have all that done, your system is ready to go. All that's really left to do is simply come in here and break both of the minecarts, and both your allays should be in there, and you should have the correct item in each of their slots. If you need to change them, just have an empty slot in your hand, and you should be able to pick it up and then give them a new item. But of course, once you have all your allays in, all you have to do is simply throw in all your non-stackable items or whatever item you are sorting, and the system will sort those items, and those will end up in the chest down below. But that is really all there is to it. If you have any other questions or comments, let me know down in the comment section below, and if you all enjoyed, then make sure to leave a like and subscribe. But this has been Rocket Builder, and I'll see you all in the next one.